Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ranting Atheist podcast. Today on Story of an Atheist, I will be reading the deconversion story of a Nigerian atheist. It was sent to me via email. So if you want to share your story, but you are unable to have a one-on-one with me, please send your story comprehensively. You can keep your identity anonymous. Send it via DM or through email, atheistranting@gmail.com. If you are yet to subscribe, please consider subscribing. This podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, Google, or any other place you get your podcasts. And now, I will be reading The Creation of an Atheist Story. Hi, my name is Slim Shady, a 32-year-old who works for the government. I am from Lagos, so I always identify as single. But this guy. I grew up amidst a cocktail of religious influences. Dad was a Muslim, mom was a Christian, so come Salah or Christmas, we're eating good. In hindsight, one could draw a straight line from this multi-religious background to where I am at now, de facto atheist. Number 6 on the popular Dawkins scale in his God Delusion book. An intriguing read, I recommend you to check it out. My deconversion started perhaps because of this multi-religious background. Even though I was a bit of both, I was raised basically Anglican. So on Sundays, it's either Ikoyi club with my dad or church with my mom. You can guess which one I look forward to more. The first time I ever questioned religion, ironically, was at church. 8-year-old me was in Sunday school, half paying attention when something the teacher said caught my attention. She was quoting John chapter 14, verse 6. To paraphrase, the verse that says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That certainly piqued my curiosity because I thought it was weird that no one else would make it to the much coveted heaven except through Christ. This was of course because I knew people from both sides of the divide, and I probably heard a similar claim from the Alpha at the praying ground on Salah Day. My hand shot up immediately. Auntie, I have a question. So are you saying that anyone who isn't a Christian, regardless of how good they behave, will not make it to heaven? Yes, she responded. It's only through Jesus that we can make it. I don't think I thought much of an answer after that till I was older, but I distinctly remember that day and the answer. I wager that put me on the path of skepticism. A few years later, I'm now in secondary school. From frying pan straight to another cocktail. We had both students from both Abrahamic faith background coexisting, mostly peacefully. Quite early on most mornings, one would wake up to the sound of the Adhan, which is the Muslim call to prayer, albeit grudgingly, because it no concerns some of us now. Then on Sunday, when service took longer than usual, we did not have official chapel or mosque at the school, so Christians used the dining hall. Mostly we go in and wait till we finish service. And on occasion, some joined in praise and worship because they heard the song so many times and it was quite simply just a bit of fun. Experiences like this, among others, have shaped my views on religion today. The uncompromising stance many verses in these holy books, holy is spelled as Holey. The uncompromising stance many verses in the holy books take were primarily a product of the worldview at the time they were written and should be regarded as such now, a fabric of human history. These watery at best ideological movements we have come to know today cannot be shaping your worldview in big 2021. Come on, man. Anyways, to quote the great Snoop Doggy Dogg, to the lecture at hand. It was with this egalitarian mindset on religion I got admitted into Covenant University. Oh, but till infinity. The first culture shock I experienced was when I heard the term secular music, which I erroneously thought meant circular at the time. I'll explain why. You see, I was bumping to Biggie Smalls on my Dixman and rapping fairly loudly while strolling towards Paul Hall office side. To those that are unfamiliar with Covenant, this is akin to sporting dreadlocks and piercing, then confidently walking towards a SARS checkpoint. You don't dey mad? Luckily, some random guy stops me and starts a conversation. Guy, be fresh aba? You know sabi say secular music no dey allowed for CU. You better cool down. I was visibly puzzled when I looked at him, while nodding in appreciation and hurriedly taking off my headphones without saying a word. I just stood there wondering, what the hell does he mean by secular music? Could it be we are not allowed to have CDs on campus, seeing that CDs are around, hence secular? I know, silly me. I would not realize my mistake until a few days later when reading the student handbook during an induction lecture at the university chapel. I came across the term secular and what it meant. I don't know what it is with me and having these epiphanies in church, but once again, the irony was lost on me. The rest of my journey through CU was as eventful as the paragraph above, I assure you. I look back in time, only to chuckle now at the mental gymnastics even I had to employ to reconcile the realities of members on the faculty, Audi man, if you know, you know, and the institution falling short of the strict morals they aspire to, but expected small me to achieve. In conclusion, I'll tell a story that shaped how I view the concept of God now, in the hope that it jolts you, the curious listener, from the highly improbable idea that there is indeed an invisible hand, or a puppeteer, if you like, at the helm of worldly affairs. So I struggled with sleep paralysis in my third year in school. For anyone who's experienced it without knowing what it really is, especially if you are Nigerian, na spiritual attack you go call am. Standard. And I thought so too. So while experiencing it, I used to call the name of Jesus repeatedly until I was able to break out of the attack state and regain control of the rest of my body. So about a decade later, I'm on Twitter and I see a post explaining it, how it is commonly mistaken for something metaphysical or spiritual. And I see how people from different parts of the world joke about how they thought it was spiritual too at the time in the comments. I just stopped scrolling and laughed at myself for a full 30 seconds. So friends, that is what I think God is, a gap in scientific knowledge. Because the human condition craves to explain its environment, so we tend to make mental shortcuts to provide answers where the gaps in our reasoning exist. The simplest way to explain this to even a child is that there was once a time when humanity thought something as trivial as lightning was an act of God. Then along came Benjamin Franklin, and we're all better today for it. We have one less reason to fear God is angry with us. I became an atheist sometime in 2016. I had stopped going to church far back as 2011, and because of my cocktail background, I'd even identify as Muslim for a while. After like 2 Ramadans, I dropped that shit like it was hot. I beg. I love food, sex, and alcohol. Which one come be all these ones? Sure. So I manned up and spoke to my dad about not being able to keep up with not only more Ramadan, but having to pray 5 times a day. Jesus did not die for this, I beg. Thankfully, he's one of the liberal ones. He was unhappy but understood. He also mentioned that Islam isn't a religion of compulsion, but Malan flogging kids at Arabic school, this one is for you. And he even continued to pray that I eventually return to the light, in quotes, and identified as a free thinker / irreligious person. I cannot count the number of arguments I got in with my colleagues, friends, and my mom on this issue. There's nothing I've not heard or said back in return. From every gas, there's an equal and opposite dose. I had become my deconversion, but I didn't even know what the word atheist meant. It wasn't until late 2015 I discovered it, and boy, did it feel like Archimedes in that bathtub, except for the running out stark naked to yell Eureka. I stumbled upon atheism while searching for answers about why I was left apathetic to religion generally, why everyone seemed normal and I was the one who needed Jesus in my life, and most importantly, if I was wrong to be this way. In my mind, I'm like, okay, let me research on which of these 2 religions I've been exposed to was factually correct, closer to the truth, because Nigerians like to think, oh, we all worship the same God, just different approaches. But the reality is both ideologies have been in direct competition for centuries. Ironically, both groups are willing to abandon those differences to gang up on infidels like us, atheists. When this happens, I like to joke that they put the moron in oxymoron. In summary, my journey to atheism began with trying to find a path for myself among either of the two worldviews. I discovered the third, the scientific method, and I haven't looked back ever since. So for me, atheism is less about hating on religion, although it was before. My angry phase lasted a whole 2 years, and more about evidence-based approach to provide solutions to problems that I will inevitably face as I go through life. I have wholly jettisoned the idea of destiny or predestination. I realize now I am responsible for my experience on earth, and that circumstances happens to us all. Some are just lucky. Born American, European, they don't need visa. The first person I ever told I had joined the dark side was my girlfriend at the time. She wasn't big on the whole church thing. She was what some would call a cultural Christian who still attends church mainly for the sense of belonging they get from being part of a community, but them know they carry the gospel for head. So she wasn't bothered about it, and I thought that was how it was going to turn out when I told others. LOL. Or should I say, hoped, because knowing Nigerians, Case in point, when I came out to a number of colleagues, I immediately noticed some form of excommunication from social events like people's birthdays, weddings, stuff happening outside the office, that sort of thing. While that is very mild in comparison to what others face generally, I would not have come out to them if I could do it over again. I've come to realize that most people cannot see beyond their proverbial nose, ideologically speaking. So where they can't form a logical defense to your stance, they tend to attack in more subliminal ways. And you don't want civil servants knowing your shit anyhow. So now I adopt a when in Rome, act like the Roman stance about disclosing my atheist leanings. I only tell a few select I have previously vetted through various conversations prior, if need be. Nigeria's major issue, in my view, is an identity crisis. It's an ethno-religious, feudalist, pseudo-monarchical state pretending to be a secular one and failing abysmally. The center just cannot hold. So, our over-religiosity is more symptom than ailment, coupled with a little investment in human capital development. And by extension, an under-educated populace, our nationhood appears to have late-stage cancer. So friends, to conclude this lengthy rant about little me, I recommend you listen to the Secular Jihadists for Muslim Enlightenment on Google Podcasts. They have a different flavor to a large number of pods out there because it was started by an ex-Muslim and tends to debunk more of the Quran. So listen for balance, but both books play similar way, I assure you. As to the Pascal Wager's question, I am right in Jesus' mighty name. Don't worry yourself. Okay, that was a lengthy read, and wow, it was fun recording it. I hope you got one or two things from this story and see how people arrived at atheism from different perspectives. This person was exposed to Islam and Christianity. Some people were exposed to just Christianity only or just Islam only. Everybody arrives at atheism from different backgrounds. So when Christians begin to run their mouth about atheists, I just laugh. Even though I'm pissed off, I just laugh. They don't understand. If they understand, they might as well become atheists. So thank you for listening. If you are yet to subscribe, please subscribe. Apple, Spotify, Google, any other place you get your podcast. Then, if you want to share your story anonymously, send via DM or through email. Links in the show notes below. If you are not on Clubhouse, please join Clubhouse. 100 people. We can now run Clubhouse any which way. So check the links below and join Clubhouse. We do our best to host rooms every week. Not every time, but we do our best. So, done for this week, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.